Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again for another episode of N Health. Today we're going to talk about something that's a little bit close to home for me. So I'm a holistic nutritionist, and my whole practice focuses on the connection between mental health and nutrition, mainly because I went through such a tumultuous experience with depression, anxiety, panic disorder, and so I really want to give back with everything that I've learned about how to kind of treat it naturally, especially because so many of the medications can be quite detrimental or might not necessarily help with the real root cause of why you've developed these mental health conditions. So today we're going to talk about depression specifically and some natural ways that you can kind of overcome depression using supplementation as well as diet and lifestyle. So when we talk about depression, it's really hard to medicate because it can come from so many different places. So, it can come from like a traumatic experience, potentially maybe you've had like a family member pass away. And realistically, like a medication is not going to bring that person back. So sometimes taking a pharmaceutical medication for like an emotional experience might not be the best way to kind of overcome whatever's going on. So, it could be from an emotional trauma, it could be from nutrient deficiency. So this is the one that I see most commonly, as well as there's a really strong gut-brain connection. So this means that actually our brain and our digestive system were both developed at the same time in vitro, which means that when we were developing in our mother's stomachs, when we were fetuses, our brain and our digestive system were the first things to actually develop. So the gut is commonly known as the second brain. And the reason why this is so important is because they're actually connected by something called the vagus nerve that runs up and down from the gut to the brain. And the inner digestive tract, all of the microbiome, or like all of our good probiotics, help to take nutrients from food and then feed it up to our brain through the vagus nerve. They actually help to produce things like serotonin and dopamine. So like 90% of serotonin is actually made in the gut. And serotonin, as we know, is our happy hormone. So it's really important to look at the digestive system when we're dealing with things like depression, anxiety, and panic disorder. So it could be an issue with your microbiome. It also could be negative self-talk. So this is when we kind of get ourselves into a rut, and our like inner bully, I like to call it, is telling us things over and over again. You're not good enough. You'll never get it. I'll never be able to do this. And it's just kind of, instead of egging you on, it's just playing these negative cyclical voices in your subconscious that might prevent you from moving forward. And in that case, then I would obviously recommend therapy. So if we want to kind of tackle depression from a nutrient aspect, you would really want to look at the specific nutrients that help to produce neurotransmitters and help to elevate mood. So I'm not sure if you guys have ever dealt with depression, and if you have, then you probably know that you feel quite lethargic, like you just don't feel very motivated. You don't feel like, getting up and like enjoying the day. Sometimes it can affect your energy levels as well as just motivation in general. So one of my favorite supplements to use for that is a B vitamin. So this is the B complex. You're going to want to do a full, a full B complex instead of just taking like B12 or B3, mainly because all of the B vitamins play an important role in neurotransmitter development as well as in energy production. So the B complex is really important for that. And actually deficiencies in B12 can have irreparable nervous system damage or neurological damage. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you really want to make sure that you're supplementing with a full B complex, or at least at bare minimum B12. And B12 is actually quite hard to absorb from your food because it takes something called intrinsic factor. So you would take a B12 supplement sublingually, or you can just take it in the big complex and then you have them all. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is the 5-HTP. So 5-HTP is one of the precursors to serotonin as well as melatonin. So serotonin is like your daytime happy hormone, and melatonin is your nighttime sleepy hormone. And melatonin is a really, really powerful antioxidant that protects the body from developing things like cancer or any of the other like chronic disorders. So if we're not producing enough serotonin during the day, then we're definitely not producing enough melatonin at night. So what you really want to make sure is that if you're somebody that's struggling with depression, you want to do things that are going to help to increase that serotonin. So this includes taking things like 5-HTP, you'd want to take 5-HTP away from food because it is being used as a protein to create serotonin, but also doing things like lifestyle-wise. So when we talk about the difference between serotonin and dopamine, dopamine is more like pleasure center. So things that would increase dopamine are like eating sweets or gambling or, having sex. Whereas with serotonin, it's more of, it's not really pleasure, it's actually just happiness. So things that help to increase serotonin are like going for a walk, immersing yourself in nature. So dopamine usually leaves you wanting more, whereas serotonin leaves you very satiated. So if you're somebody who's struggling with depression, doing things that are going to help to increase serotonin are really important. And the last thing that you can do to help to increase serotonin is just making sure you're getting enough movement in the day, because exercise is going to help to create these amazing endorphins that leave us feeling satiated for the rest of the day. And also too, I find that with people that struggle with depression, they make like promises to themselves that they aren't necessarily able to keep. So it's like, I really want to exercise today, but I don't have enough energy. So then you kind of feel bad about yourself, and then that perpetuates the negative self-talk. So if you can make very small promises to yourself every single day, like today I'm going to get up and shower, or today I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk, tomorrow I'll go for a 10-minute walk. These little promises, if we keep them to ourselves, we actually naturally produce these happy hormones because we feel good about what we're doing during the day. So that's 5-HTP, and then the last one I want to talk about is ginkgo. So ginkgo is really, really commonly known for mood balancing as well as for memory, and mainly because it's a cerebrospinal dilator, which means it's going to dilate or expand your cerebrospinal fluid or your spine, so that cerebrospinal fluid can flow up to the brain. So this means that with all the blood flow that's going up to the brain, it's actually bringing nutrients along with it, which is going to help to feed the brain. Because oftentimes when we have a depressive state or we deal from anxiety or depression, it is a neurotransmitter, there is neurotransmitter malfunction, or the neurotransmitters are off balance. And in that case, we want to make sure that we're giving the body or the brain the specific nutrients it needs to actually produce the neurotransmitters that are going to help you live your day. The other thing that we can do is making sure that we're increasing serotonin producing foods or tryptophan producing foods in our diet. So tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin, and 5-HTP is like the intermediate. So it goes tryptophan, 5-HTP, serotonin. So with food, we can't actually eat foods that are high in 5-HTP because that's a process that the body converts naturally on its own. So what you can do with diet is you can do things that are going to increase tryptophan. So that's like eating turkey. So I'm not sure if you guys have ever felt really, really full after a Thanksgiving dinner and like wanted to sleep. So folklore says that that's because, you've eaten, the turkey is going to help to produce 5-HTP, which helps to produce serotonin and melatonin. So it kind of makes you sleepy. It could be that. It could just be that you're full. But basically, increasing things like turkey, eggs, and bananas are really great for helping to produce serotonin, as well as dark chocolate. So fun fact, dark chocolate actually helps to produce the specific hormone in your brain that you have when you're falling in love, which feels very lovely. It's really satiating. So dark chocolate's another really good one. And another thing you can do with diet is making sure that you are just getting enough water, because water again is going to help with the blood flow up to the brain, and making sure that we're reducing any of the things that are going to help to create temporary dopamine. So diets really high in sugar and processed foods are going to create kind of more of a stimulatory dopamine or a dopamine feedback, which means that you're going to be left wanting more instead of being left feeling satiated. I really hope that was helpful. Oh, last thing is just make sure that you get enough sleep. If you guys need any help with this, you can always reach out. This is something I do on a daily basis, and I'm happy to help anybody. I know it can seem like really glum when you're really dark when you're in it, but just so you know, you absolutely can get yourself out of it. I know many people who have, and you do have to walk in with like a very positive attitude and a willingness to be open to change. So if you guys have any questions, I'll link all of these supplements up below, and I hope you have an awesome day.